Welcome to the Little Wins Podcast, where school leaders share their little wins that build strong culture, with your host, Karen Borchert. Hello, welcome to the Little Wins Podcast, the podcast where we talk with K-12 education leaders about the small but powerful things they're doing to build strong, positive school cultures. I'm your host, Karen Borchert, and today's guest is Jeff Dock, first-year assistant principal at Thornapple Kellogg High School in Middleville, Michigan. After nearly 2 decades as a teacher, coach, and mentor, Jeff made the leap into school leadership this year, bringing a team-first mindset and a deep belief that culture is built through relationships, one conversation at a time. Today, we're going to hear a little bit about what he's learned in his first year of being an assistant principal, what's worked, what surprised him, and how even small wins can shape the journey of a new leader. Welcome, Jeff. We're so happy to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Awesome. Well, we are first, we would just love to hear your story. So you spent 16 years doing in the classroom and as a coach. What motivated you to take the step into school leadership? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah. So, love the classroom, still love the classroom. Still think about the classroom, but I think, probably over the last, 3 years or so, I just started thinking about, do I want to be a biology teacher for the remainder of my career? Mm-hmm. Is there another step? Like, what does that look like? And so I had been thinking about it, and then an opportunity presented itself, and I went back and forth. I did get some encouragement to move into the role, and decided, you know what, now's a great time to try it. Why not? So made that decision, interviewed, and was lucky enough to get it.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay. So what's the biggest surprise? You went from being in charge of 120 students to over 950 students, almost 1,000 students. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
tell me about that. Like, what was that? What has that been like? What is that like?
It's one of the hardest decisions, part of it, I felt, and what I've realized is, I loved having the control of 120 students. As a teacher, you're about 90 to 95% in control, depending on, what the students are going to bring in the classroom for that day.
Yeah.
But you have your own method, you have your own classroom management. I love to handle my own business in my classroom. I was one that I wanted to handle the discipline myself. And so I felt like I was able to do that. And having that control, I didn't realize how cool that was until all of a sudden putting in this role and realizing I have zero control.
Oh, man.
You get to know those 120 students. And that was a fear of mine. That was one of the questions that I asked my principal is, how do you, I get to know my students. That is something that I am passionate about. And now, finding a way to do that with 950 to 960 students, it's hard. And, I haven't figured that out yet. I don't even know how viable that even is.
Yeah.
But not having the control of your day, that was a big shocker as much, not knowing this side of things. You don't know what you know until you're in it.
Until you're in it. Yeah. It's so interesting. And I think it's a kind of an overlooked idea that when you have your classroom, you've got this kind of locus of control. You've got these, what you've got, what your day is going to look like. You get to plan it out as much or as little as you want. It can be fluid or it can be highly controlled. It can be lots of things. Yeah. But then you get into this role and, to your point, what I'm hearing you say is you don't have control of your day. So can you walk us in there, take us right into those first couple of weeks as a new assistant principal? Tell me about what that looked like to not have that control, or what specifically what did you not have control over that you used to? Yeah.
So thinking through part of it is I'm still a head football coach as well.
Yeah.
And so, whether it be having a planning period, a designated planning period that you have, 50, 55 minutes to plan for your class, to grade, make copies, and in my case, in the fall to finish up practice plans and those types of things. And so I realized I don't have that anymore. And so right from the get-go, if something, even when I had things on my calendar, like I wanted to go observe a teacher. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, I have a discipline issue in my classroom or, in my office. Right. So yes, it was on my calendar, but it didn't matter. Discipline issue came down. I had to handle that discipline issue. And we have 2 assistant principals here, which is fantastic. And it was the first time that we've had 2 assistant principals. Yeah. And so we had yet to really figure out the dynamic of how to help each other maintain their calendars. Yep. And so learning that rhythm, learning that organization took a while. And so basically the day went as the kids went, if it wasn't a full moon, or if the kids were all good, and it's all of a sudden it's a quiet morning, then
you're like, I get to the bottom of my inbox today.
Totally. You get to pop into teachers' classrooms or, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then, I had always hoped and still plan to, but I also realized it's a little more difficult than maybe what it looks to look like is I want to be out of the office. I want to be out in the hallways. I want to be visible and those types of things. And there's times where I'm like, holy cow, I haven't got out of my office yet because I've just been calling students down or, dealing with problems or looking at cameras or, those types of things. So,
which is not what you picture, right? Like when you're like, I'm going to be an assistant principal, it's a new role, and you have like this plan in your head for like, okay, I'm going to make these great relationships and these connections with our students, and I'm going to be in this role. And like, you don't picture yourself like watching video, and you don't picture yourself like spending the day calling kids down or things like that. And that those moments really disrupt this like kind of picture you had in your head of the assistant principal. Is that like, is that
wholeheartedly.
Right? Like, that's kind of what I'm hearing. Is that, am I getting it right?
Yeah, totally. And, I have a mobile cart, and I got, a multi-screen portable thing so I can work out in the hallways, but then.
Oh, cool. Wait, stop there. Tell more about that. Like tell about the mobile cart.
So, one of the things is being visible and trying to maintain work is that's trying really to now hard. take the office and move it out to the hallway. And
smart.
Totally doable. All of that, I think is awesome and still planned to happen. But then it's like, okay, well, Susie and Johnny just got sent to the office. Do I have those conversations out in the hallway? Do I now roll my cart all the way back to my office? Those types of things of trying to figure out how that balance works and what deems an appropriate conversation, out in the hallway or pulled into an empty classroom. Versus, okay, no, we got to go to my office and figure this out. So
that's brilliant though. Can you talk a little bit more? So how did that idea come about? Like that is definitely a like perfect example of a little win. So you're an assistant principal, you are trying to be really present and in the hallways and with the students, but you're also being kind of bogged down by the number of sort of obligations and things that you have to just receive and do and handle right away as an assistant principal. How did you come up with an idea to like basically create a mobile office? I can like almost picture you in like a little golf cart going around.
Yeah.
Should be really fun.
The assistant principal and dean of students before me, they kind of had a cart and kind of did a similar thing. And then I follow, I forget his name, but I follow a pretty followed principal on social media that talks about, having a cart and being out. And so, and through that process, that's kind of where the idea morphed and cool. That type of thing. And I need to do a way better job of this. Okay. So I'm not saying that like, I'm out there all the time by any means. I need to do a way better job. So, but I do, I think it's good to be out there. Yeah. But but then you're called back. So how do you find those ways and identify those ways of like, okay, yeah, this conversation can't happen in a hallway. And to a certain extent, some of the conversations, they're black and white. And
yep,
you're going to go to the ISS room for the remainder of class, or like, we don't need to have a long drawn out conversation about it, but identifying that can take some time too. So
yeah, for sure. That's awesome. That sounds like an amazing kind of, I don't know, just adaptation of your work style to be able to still accomplish what you need to accomplish and be available, at your computer or reviewing video or all of those things, but also being available in the hallways and more visible, just, with your staff. That's super cool. Tell me a little bit, so when you're going from, 100 and something students to almost 1,000 students, like almost 10x the number of kids you're dealing with and working with, how do you start to systematize relationship building? Like, you can't just do the same things you do as a teacher, right?
No.
To when you are in this role, if you want to build relationships, how are you building the system for that?
Yeah. So again, what I realize is intentionality has to be in place, because just like any relationships, you have relationships in your classroom. You got to be intentional with having conversations in your classroom. The beauty of classroom is you have those kids every day, all day. And so you have room to do that.
And some continuity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. And so what I've tried to do here in this position is try to identify students to call down and just have conversations with. And
not because they did anything wrong.
Correct. And that's the other part of that is I don't want the office to feel like, oh, okay, well, you got called down, so therefore discipline is coming. I want, a student's going to realize if discipline's happening based on what their interaction in the classroom.
Right.
But I want them to be able to come down and hopefully through our relationship already kind of be de-elevated, and so having those opportunities to put it in the calendar, hey, I'm going to call these 5 students down. And I'm just going to have a short snippet. Hey, how you doing? I'm Mr. Doc, introduce myself, just have a conversation about their interests, and they'll go on their way. Again, lesson learned. I've done that a little. I need to do that way more, And from the get-go, because like the beauty is right now is I have 3 classes that I've had in class. So,
cool.
I have relationships built with 3/4 of the school.
Right.
The freshman class,
you don't know them as well.
Very little. So trying to, operate and figure out how to build those relationships is, I don't know if it's realistic to nail that down, but I also feel it's a worthy try.
For sure.
I'm going to give it a go.
Are there any, we're going to keep at it.
Yeah.
So are there any little, I don't know, did you get any little wins or little sort of boosts or even just understanding or knowledge in your role from calling down those kids this year that are nobody's in any trouble? And also, did anybody come into your office and was like, what did I do? Tell it. So
those facial expressions are hilarious when they come in. They're like, "Why am I in here?" I'm like, "Hey, I just want to introduce myself. I just want to know you."
They're like,
totally.
That's awesome.
So I just think, I have, I got 3 cards today. I haven't read them yet, but
okay.
So I'm not even sure. I mean, I'm assuming they're positive, but
wait. Well, hold on. What are the cards?
Well, let's see.
Oh, you're gonna read one for us? Oh, this is very exciting.
So it says, "Dear Coach Doc, thank you for mentoring and giving me great advice, not just about football, but also about life. I look forward to a great season."
That's it. That's amazing. How did these notes get to you? How did these notes come about?
I don't know, to be honest. They were just.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were just. They were just.
Kids just write you notes in the middle of the day to say thanks for being great.
Well, I I don't know that other than, it is Teacher Appreciation Week. So I don't, maybe some of that stems from that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Doc, for being such a big help and always being there. Appreciate it so much. You're wonderful and make such a great impact. Thank you for checking in on me and letting me just rant. Your advice is so helpful. It means a lot. I hope you have a great rest of your week. You deserve it. So those are, I guess, I don't like really patting myself on the back at all, but I think those are from those relationships and, those matter. And, the last one I read is from a freshman. So I've gotten to know her both on good and bad terms.
Right.
But so
that's awesome. That's so great. Thanks for reading those out loud.
I was kind of scared. I wasn't sure what
you're like. Whoa, you're like, this is the part we're going to say. So no, that's awesome. That's so cool. And obviously like such a testament to just the idea of like keeping the door open and knowing that, good or bad, you can come in and talk to you. I think that is the kind of thing that results in notes like that. You've told me a little bit before about an idea that you've implemented called Notes Home, maybe. And I love it. It's such a great little win. It's a perfect example of a little win. Can you tell everybody, can you explain how it works and what kind of impact you've seen from Notes Home? What is Notes Home?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the year, we asked one of our secretaries to print out all of our students' address labels. Mm-hmm. And at every staff meeting, anytime the staff gets together, we set out note cards that look like that.
Yep.
And just simple postcards.
Oh, cool.
And then staff will come and they will grab an address label. So that's kind of the address labels are how we keep track of who's getting notes and who's not. Yep. And so they'll grab 2-4 address labels for their notes. And then they just write a kind note of encouragement. My son is a sophomore. He got a note that said, can't wait to have you next year. Looking forward to, having you in class next year. He got another one that, said, thanks for doing what you're doing in class and all that. So those were kind of the themes of the notes. Just simple, short and quick. The goal is to have every student have a note by the end of the year. Yep. So our seniors are done next Friday. Yep. And so I actually, it's funny you asked that. I sent out an email today. We had a group of teachers write a bunch of notes to seniors yesterday. Cool. And we just put all the seniors in the staff lounge and just want to make sure all the seniors get one before they leave. And then we'll nail the underclassmen, after that. So I've gotten a lot of really good feedback. Kids,
I imagine,
everything is so electronic nowadays.
Yep.
Maybe because I'm still part of the generation where we got written notes.
Yep.
I still check the mail every day. So when a kid gets a written note from their teacher in the mail, one, it just shows another level of care, I believe. But two, it also shows the parents that the staff is interacting, So I think there's a lot of positives to this. It's been awesome. It's something that we'll continue to do.
Yeah. I mean, that thing has so much impact, right? You've got a staff member who is kind of reflecting and thinking about a student and about how they have, kind of what their role is in the culture of the school, and writing that down. That's good. That's great for your staff member. You've got a kid who receives that praise. You've got the parent who sees that teacher cares and notices something about them. And you got this great moment between the parent and the kid to say, like, I saw that note from your biology teacher. Like, that's amazing. I'd love to see that. Like, and then what ends up happening, you just showed us, is that those notes come back. Yeah. Right. Those notes come back to you and people, kids and students and staff feel comfortable saying to you, hey, thanks for making me feel this way. Thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me rant. And those notes come back to you, which has to be a good thing for you as well. And just sort of reinforces the system of, I mean, that's just like a beautiful bit of communications all through just, a post, like a stack of postcards and labels that are printed out from information you already have. That, like, what a huge, like, kind of compounding little win. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think, even it's a simple, it can change the direction of, maybe a student this has been feedback from some staff members.
Yeah.
Students been maybe struggling in class or, had some behavior issues in class, and just receiving that note.
It's like a turnaround strategy.
Flipped it, and they might not turn into being a, academic rock star or, perfect angel, but it changes the dynamic of how they're interacting in the class, and just opens up more doors for more conversations. And it's been good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm a parent of a school age kid, and everyone's, I've had kids who've had moments and challenges in school, and the moment that you get that note home, even email, but I mean, obviously a real note home is insane, but even any little note home that says, hey, this is going a lot better, or this is going really well, or, your kid did a great job with this thing. It's just like, as a parent, and you've got kids at the school, so you as well. What's that like, being both kind of a parent and an administrator at your school?
Yeah, that's been good. Luckily,
you send them to the other assistant principal if there's any trouble.
Yes, that for sure.
Yep.
But my oldest also plays football, so not only I was his teacher when he was last year as a freshman. He was up with me as a player, and now I'm his assistant principal. So it's been very interesting. Luckily, he's not in this office very much at all.
Well, that's good.
So that piece has been very good. But it's fun. I mean, that's how I grew up. I grew up with my mom was a middle school counselor, and my dad was a teacher and coach that I had. So, it was a great experience for me. Hopefully it'll be a great experience for my kids too.
That's great. That's awesome. All right. Well, going back to some of these kind of first year wins, first year things that you did. I know a huge topic for a lot of folks is around kind of cell phone policies and how we think about technology, like, personal technology, and how our kids interact with it. Again, as a parent, I'm very familiar with this. Tell me a little bit about kind of how you approach that, and how as a first year administrator, how'd you handle that?
Yeah. So coming into this year, we had a staff meeting at the end of last year, and all of our staff, me being a teacher still, everyone felt like we need to have a cell phone ban. Los Angeles was coming out with it. There's multiple places coming out with cell phone bans, and so we moved forward with that. At the beginning of the year, it was great. Teachers loved it. Teachers still love it.
Yeah.
However, we did have a shelter in place situation that kind of came out of the blue. That's the biggest concern when you have these cell phone bans of, well, what happens when my student, if something bad happens and I can't get a hold of them and that type of thing.
Right.
And, luckily nothing terrible happened, but we had to go in shelter in place. And the momentum that we had, just came, because it was crashing. It would have been a even more of a nightmare if we tried to right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just how we handled it. And kids had their cell phones and they were trying to contact it. It felt like they felt safer with it, that type of thing. And, since then, we never got back a hold of where we were. It's still better than what it was, but we're still trying to figure out, okay, how do we better do it? And the biggest thing is our policy is it's supposed to be often in their locker throughout the day. Like we said, nothing at lunch. It was often in their locker. But then we also said that we weren't going to be pocket polices. We weren't going to search and, try to find the cell phone on a kid. We weren't going to play get you and, or gotcha.
Right.
And, from our end, if we want to eliminate cell phones, we almost have to. So we're in the process right now of getting feedback from staff and how we want to, move on to next year. And what we want to do with that. What are we okay with? And in all reality, we're hoping that our government, our state government comes through with a policy that we can, hang our hat on. Hey, this is above us now.
Rules the rules. Yeah. Jeff, tell us a little bit. I think that when we talked last, you had mentioned some cool things that you were doing to kind of make kids miss their cell phones less, like around lunchtime and some of those things. I think those are such cool ideas, like to, rather than a punitive strategy or a got you strategy, like you are saying, you created some opportunities for kids to feel really happy without them. Tell us more about some of those things you've done.
Yeah. Well, one of the cool things without the cell phones is our students are talking to each other. You don't see students with their phone, their head down on their phone, walking in the hallway and almost running into kids. Like, you don't see that anymore. They're talking, they're having conversations in the cafeteria. They're talking and having conversations. So we put board games, card games. We have foosball tables in the cafeteria. And there's a lot more of those interactions happening. Students still will bring their Chromebook in and get homework done, that type of thing. But we've tried to do some minute to win it games where we'll go around and the kids will do that. We did that early in the year. And then we just got done with a cornhole tournament. And so we, staff and students got together and the student council played a role in it, and they made a huge bracket. And so we had a first lunch bracket and a second lunch bracket. And we put the cornhole boards in the cafeteria. What we learned is the ceiling is a little bit low in certain areas. So that threw some dynamics in it. But kids watch kids play cornhole. And kids that participated, I think we had over 100 kids participate.
Oh my gosh!
And so it was awesome. And then
so cool.
We have seminars like. It's like 45 minutes, 2 days a week for academic intervention and stuff like that. Well, the seminar before spring break, we had the finals. And so we had the first lunch finals and we had the second lunch finals. And then we had the final in front of the student body. So we brought the student body in. We had a student council. They kind of emceed it and announced it. It was just something different. Fun, something that anyone could really get involved in. And so, again, a little win, that's a little win.
That might be a big win. Yeah. Jeff, that's so cool. And so you said students and staff participated.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about what's the impact of something like that on your staff? Like, what does staff culture look like differently because you're doing stuff like that?
Yeah. We're just encouraging relationship building. We want staff to feel comfortable getting involved in those types of things. And, overall, our staff is fantastic. They are super caring. They love our students. They do anything for our students. And so however, with that being said, lunch is also a very sacred time for a teacher. 30 minutes to be with my colleagues or 30 minutes to have peace and quiet, 30 minutes to not have any, real responsibility. And so it was cool to see some staff members jump in on this and play and interact and show students a different side of them and that type of thing. One piece of feedback that we received from the students is make sure that 2 staff members can't be on the same team. Staff can participate, but it's got to be a staff and student. So,
okay.
Which we were super nervous because out of the finals, so myself and a student, it was me and a student, and then 2 staff members came out of second lunch. And so they were worried that if they beat us, that they were, how that was going to look. So luckily they didn't beat us, so that was good.
Yeah.
But then only...
Wait, so did you win the cornhole tournament?
We took second.
Okay.
Awesome. We got beat in the finals. We got smoked in the finals, actually.
Okay.
So by students, yes. So there were, in first lunch, there were 2 teams of students that got.
Okay.
So no staff members got out of first lunch. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's unifying,
Yeah.
and just provides opportunity for staff to see kids and interact in a different way than
I love it.
being in front as a teacher,
Yeah. Yeah. It just changes, like it kind of breaks patterns, changes kind of what you think of, like this is, it's kind of like seeing your teacher in the grocery store, right? Like if you're
totally.
like, oh wow, like that lady's really good at cornhole, as it turns out. It's like kind of a great moment for a kid too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, okay. So it's almost the end of your first year. Tell me, like, okay, looking back, what's one big lesson you will carry forward into your second year?
I think continue to be intentional about building relationships outside of discipline. For one, and then 2, following through. Up on my whiteboard in my office, I have 3 things that I wanted to do. And the 3 things are: serve the staff, follow through and follow up, and be consistent. And I've had great moments in those, and I've failed miserably in those. So finding ways to continue to be consistent in doing those, top 2 things of serving the staff and following through on things and following up on things, I think is huge.
I love those 3 goals. I love those 3 goals as a first year administrator. How did you come up with them?
I think those are qualities of leadership in general. When I think about being a head football coach, I want to serve not only my coaches, I want to serve my players, and I also want to serve the program, serve parents, that type of thing. So servant leadership, I think, is huge. And the right mode of action, I guess. And then again, if staff are sending students down for discipline, if I'm in charge of MTSS and PBIS and all of those things, I need to be able to follow through on things. I need to check in on things. I need to follow up on things. Teachers need to know that a student's not coming down here and giving a high five and a piece of cake, that type of thing. This is what happened to this student. So this is a conversation we had. Here's how to reinforce it, how to follow up, all those things. And the consistency piece, again, not only serving staff, but the students need to feel like we're consistent. They can't come back, well, hey, why did Johnny get this punishment and I did the same thing and I got this punishment? We want to be as consistent by the book as possible. Kids are gray. Relationships are gray. It is not always black and white. However, if we can be as close to consistent as possible, I think it's a win across the board.
That's awesome. I love it. That's such great advice. And I love those 3 things as far as like kind of guiding lights for your first year. So what advice would you give to a teacher or a coach stepping into school leadership for the first time? Like, what's one thing that you could be like, here's what I learned in my first year that I can pass along to you and save you a little time?
It's different on this side.
Okay. Yeah.
Your eyes will be opened, but it's worthy. It's needed. And I think having strong leaderships in leadership positions it just helps culture run better. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, well, this is amazing. I have learned so much already. We've got our three little wins questions that we ask everybody. Are you ready for those three questions?
Yeah, I'll just give one more little win, because it just happened.
Oh my gosh, yeah, love it.
And I think it follows suit into the serve the staff component.
Yeah.
We have just gone under a superintendent interview new process. We've had, I think, 5 or 6 superintendents in the last 5 years or something. We've had tremendous turnover.
Yeah.
And so this process happened, and, calling, you never want to meet just to meet, but I also think when you understand or get a feel for maybe the vibe of the staff, or you get a sense of, hey, the staff need to talk. And so, we called a voluntary staff meeting at the end of the day once the announcement went out and after the board meeting and that type of thing. And we just had a conversation just to hear the staff.
Wow, cool.
And the feedback that we get from that was awesome. And not just that meeting, but after the shelter in place, or after anything that happens that, there was an issue, and you want to make sure that the staff is heard. Staff want to be heard. People want to be heard. And so giving space for that, I think, is huge.
Can I ask, how did you format that conversation? So you said it was a voluntary staff meeting, kind of at the end of the day. What did it look like? Did you just bring everybody together and say, anybody want to talk about stuff? Or how did that actually play out? How did you format that?
Yeah, just kind of relay the information from the board meeting and just said, hey, we're here to make sure that if you have questions, we're here to answer questions. And encouragement and all of those things. So it was, nothing really set other than a initial hey, here's what happened. What questions do you have? What comments do you have? That type of thing. Because I think 2 things. One, I guess the other piece of advice I'd give to someone trying to come into this role is, don't forget about where you came from.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the classroom. That's the last thing I want to do. I never want to be an administrator where the teachers are talking in between class. Man, it's only taken Jeff 9 months to forget about what it's like in our shoes.
Right. Right.
And so I think always trying to remember, okay, these are the feelings that it was like in the classroom. Having opportunity to be heard, provide those opportunities. And so that's kind of where that stemmed from, because teachers talk in the hallways, teachers talk in the in the lunchroom. And I think allowing that to be in a central location where we're all a part of it, rather than the behind the doors, behind the scenes conversations, I think is a major is a huge factor in making sure culture moves in the right direction. So
absolutely, I love that. I think that's such good advice. This is all such good advice. Honestly, it's awesome. Okay, well, we've got 3 questions for you, and we'll. I know that it's going to produce even more help especially for new leaders. I hope so many new leaders listen to this episode to hear these things. So, okay, first one is, what are the 3 words that you want to define your school's culture?
Positive. Safe. And I would say encouragement. And I know positive encouragement they might go hand in hand, but being in this role for the 9 months I've been in it, there's a lot of negativity. And the only way you can never combat negativity with negativity. The only thing that wins is positivity. And so sometimes that's hard, having 2 rough days back to back, trying to, it can be hard. But the job is to come in tomorrow, smiling at our students that are here, ready to rock and roll and having another great day.
That's awesome.
And then, the encouragement component follows suit with that.
Yep.
I've learned so many more backstories of students that, you might have a glimpse into as a classroom teacher, depending on how deep you're able to dig into those relationships. You might make some assumptions of, hey, I know Johnny has a really bad home life. I know Johnny, has this going on in life, or, whatever.
Yeah.
And in this role, you learn, and it's heartbreaking. And those kids need encouragement. They need to know when they walk through the doors that whatever's at home is at home. And right now, you have an opportunity to make your day how you want to make your day. And I think that encouragement's huge. And then the safe component. We have, unfortunately, we lost a student earlier this fall to suicide in our community. And, bullying has been mustered up in that word, and trying to figure out what that word means and how that word is in our hallways, and, being open about that. And if our kids are looking over their shoulders, they could care less about what biology problem or what math problem, or, they're more worried about how they're being treated and that type of thing. And so, ever since every interview I've ever done, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah, that says it all right there.
Trying to get that through to students, and treating students kindly. Kindness matters, and just that will allow them to progress and learn. So, that's something that we're really trying to focus on.
Yeah, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. Okay. First, I just want to acknowledge, thank you for sharing that with us and with everyone. I think those community, events and things like that can be so challenging, and people can feel really alone in that. So thanks for being willing to talk about that situation that happened, and so sorry that it did. But I love that your work is in creating a culture that's safe for everyone. So thank you for that. What do you think is? We've talked about a lot of little wins in this conversation, but what's one little win that you personally have had at work lately? What do you think is a place where you've really gotten to win lately? What can we celebrate for you?
Yeah, well, I think just just the general interactions on the daily basis. Like, seeing students in the hallways that I have not had the opportunity to dive in and pour into a relationship with. They're a freshman, or I never had in class or whatever. And just being able to have conversations brief. And I'm not saying long drawn out, but putting a smile on a kid's face, making sure that they know that they've been seen. That was something.
Get at them with a good dad joke. All that stuff.
Well, no, I'm not that creative. I'm not. But I do think kids need to know that they're seen. And so if I see a kid with their head down, or if they're sitting by themselves, I want to make sure that I say hi to them. And so, when we talk little wins, I look at that as a little win. If a smile can be put on a kid's face. So, I love that. I think that would be
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. That's really good. That's awesome. Okay. Last question. What do you believe any educator, regardless of role, what can any educator do to improve or create great school culture right now?
I guess two things. Speak up. Culture is it's a constantly changing environment.
Yeah.
It would be super easy if we could say, hey, here's our culture and we're going to speak it into existence and it's just going to happen,
Right.
Well, we deal in the relationship business. And when new kids come in, new staff come in, things change, people need to speak up and own the culture in the building. So speaking up is one thing, and then pour into relationships. Like I said before, we are in a relationship business, and sometimes it's okay to have tough conversations. It's okay to discipline. It's okay to, I think relationships at times, discipline seems to be thought of as a anti-relationship piece. And it might fracture a relationship a little bit, but when it comes down to it, it creates a deeper relationship. And so I think diving into those relationship pieces across the board, between speaking up and talking about culture and talking about where things are at, but then putting into relationships of students and staff, I think is all a great direction in improving culture for sure.
That's awesome. I want to just call out what you just said, because I think it's huge, especially for administrators who are in roles where they handle a lot of discipline things, which is what you said. Discipline is sometimes seen as anti-relationship, and in fact, it's an opportunity to open up a relationship, and that. I have never thought about that before, and that is such a brilliant way to think about it. It's brilliant as an educator. It's also brilliant as a parent to think about those things. So thank you for teaching me that today. That is great. I'm taking that one home, like straight home today. That's awesome. I will just say, I think you have, honestly, I imagine the first year of being an administrator is hard, but you have built some really, truly remarkable little wins. I mean, I think from things like making kids not miss their phones by having games in the cafeteria and a cornhole tournament, creating opportunities for kids to see their teachers and their staff in different environments and in different contexts, to I think listening to staff through a voluntary kind of AMA, Ask Me Anything kind of forum is incredible. I think the idea of taking your office out onto a cart in the hallways. I still think you need a golf cart. And then honestly, and because I'm a handwritten notes person in the world, but I think the idea of the kind of compounding effect of Notes Home, and the way you saw those notes come back to you this week during Teacher Appreciation Week is just amazing. Honestly, these are all awesome ideas that we can all do a lot with. And so I just want to say thanks for sharing them with us, and for sharing so many little wins. You are truly an extraordinary educator and administrator, and we're really grateful to have your advice and your expertise and knowledge here on the podcast today. So thank you so much for being with us.
Well, I appreciate the time. And again, I appreciate all the kind words. I truly do. And I am going to do my very best. And I try to do that to live up to what you said. But I got a lot of room to grow. And I look forward to the journey, but so I appreciate the conversation.
Have a little win? We'd love to hear from you. Learn how we help schools build strong culture at getalpaca.com.